Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar from the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we are going to see plenty of showers over the next few days, maybe even some thunderstorms in places, and temperatures are generally going to be around average or slightly above average. So not as great as it was last week where we had wall-to-wall sunshine, lots of very warm conditions, temperatures into the mid-20s, but it's not actually too bad at all. As I alluded to yesterday, synoptic pattern that we were seeing at the moment and that was forecast a few days ago really did show a much worse picture than what we're actually gonna see. So it's not actually going to be all too bad. Of course, if you get caught out by those showers or thunderstorms, it is going to be pretty miserable indeed, but that is going to be very hit and miss. As we enter the weekend, it remains unsettled with showers around, and as I said, still in towards that 20-degree mark. As we have a look at the longer range, there is a lot of deviation as we head into the final half or third of May as we get to the extended range. As we are seeing plenty of runs still in around average, slightly above average, but more runs going very cold and some other runs going very warm. And as we said yesterday, it's most likely due to some big volatility within areas of high pressure, whether it's going to move northwards, allowing a northerly wind, or drift over the top of us to our south, allowing a southerly wind. So although, as we'll see, the synoptic patterns aren't majorly different in terms of high pressure, low pressure, it could make a big difference to those air masses, and that's why we're seeing such deviation at the moment. So it's still all to play for. Some very warm weather could be on the horizon, but equally something more akin to sort of March or April could return. So do remember, if you enjoy the videos, do like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now if you look on the live radar, you can see there is still some persistent rain in northern and eastern areas. It has lasted a little bit longer than we anticipated yesterday, but it is slowly fragmenting and turning lighter and patchy. It has persisted across much of eastern England today, and you can see some more heavy stuff across the hills of western Scotland. As I said, it should slowly disintegrate away, and we should, for many tomorrow, it should be much drier, just with a few showers around. To the west and south of this weather front, it's not actually been all too bad today. Yes, rain earlier on when the weather front did sweep through, but we have seen a bit of sunshine and those temperatures getting out towards the high teens. And if I do put in temperatures around 7 p.m, you can see the dividing lines here. Towards the west of that weather front, warmer today, 18 to 20 degrees over the under the weather front, and to the east, slightly cooler, but not massively cooler, because this weather front is actually a cold front. So the air mass ahead of the weather front is actually pretty warm. And that's why we're not seeing too big of a contrast at the surface here, because actually to the east of the weather front, it is much warmer air, just with more rain and cloud, whereas to the west it's slightly fresher, but that sunshine allows those temperatures to rise. So kind of counteracting each other, the warm air getting pushed down by the cold rain, but the colder conditions or chillier conditions getting elevated by the sunshine. You can see though, where it's still warm with the upper air temperatures and sunny across Germany, the Netherlands here. Look at that, temperatures up towards the mid to high 20s. So conditions we were seeing through the weekend still just about holding on for some parts of northern Europe. Here you can see across much of Sweden and Norway, it's actually warmer than it is across the UK, as that's where the big warm pool of air has headed. Instead, we're in a fresher Atlantic flow. But this air mass is going to get swept away eventually from these areas, and it could slowly make a return from the south as we head into that final period of May. If you look at the latest UKV now, you can see that rain slowly heading northwards and eastwards, slowly dissipating away through this afternoon and evening. Overnight, could still see a little bit of persistent rain in the east, but eventually does degrade away, and we're just left with a few showers, but actually doesn't look too bad. A bit of thicker cloud where the decayed weather front still sits, but for most, it really isn't too bad at all. As we head into Thursday, bit of rain through the morning drifting in off the North Sea, and then showers and maybe even some thunderstorms taking off there through Thursday afternoon. So you need to keep a close eye on that, especially across the Republic of Ireland, but could be risky in other areas as well. As we head into Friday, again, a bit of persistent rain overnight. Luckily, any of this persistent rain is falling in the overnight hours, and by the time we get to the daytime, that persistent rain is drifted away, and instead we are replace it with lots of showers and maybe even some thunderstorms. It does look like they're clustering here, so plenty of areas will be dry, but if you do see the thunderstorms taking off, they could linger for a while. And then finally, as we slowly head into the weekend, doesn't look too bad once again into Saturday. Again, a few thunderstorms drifting in from the south and the east, so it could be pretty thundery in places over the coming days. And then as we head into Sunday, likely to be a recurring theme. And it's all due to the fact that we've got average to slightly above average temperatures, sunshine around, and lower pressure allows those showers to really get going. We're not looking at anything too severe, and that's because we've not got that much energy in the atmosphere as the air mass is cooler, but there's still bits of energy around. And if we look at the mixed level Cape, you can see bits and bobs of higher elevated Cape here, especially the further southwards. And you can see, especially to Friday there, and even into Saturday, some elevated areas of Cape. Nothing ridiculous, nothing getting much above kind of like 500 to maybe 1,000 joules per kilogram. Again, if we're looking at big storms, we're looking at 1,500 or more. Instead, we're looking more at sort of moderate showers to maybe heavy showers and a few thundery outbreaks within there. But of course, we will have to wait and see. But definitely looks like it could be lively in places, but nothing too severe at the moment. See the afternoon temperatures widely around that high teens mark where we've avoided the rain. And as we head into Tuesday, it should be warmer. Temperatures more towards the 19 or 20 degree mark as we do have more sunshine around. Into Thursday, a similar picture. Temperatures actually slightly higher, 20 to 22 degrees perhaps. As again, we see a bit more sunshine, dry conditions apart from a few thunderstorms around. And then the same into Friday. You can see there's still patches of greens, of cooler conditions. That's where we have those showers. But elsewhere, really pleasant. Not very warm, not hot, nothing like that, but just pleasant. Those sort of temperatures where it's warm enough to go out in a t-shirt, shorts, but it's not quite warm enough where you're going to get baked out there. As we head finally into Saturday, very similar picture. So generally, we're looking at average to slightly above average. The only caveat with this next sort of 5 days is there could be showers and storms around at times. But if you do avoid those all week, then it actually doesn't look all too bad for Tuesday to Saturday. Now, if you have a look at the latest GFS, you can see what I mean. The synoptic pattern looks pretty grim at the moment with low pressure sat over the top of us. But it is going to fill in over the coming days, and we are going to see a return to slightly higher pressure for the weekend. I do emphasise slightly higher pressure. We're not seeing a dominant high moving in. Instead, the pressure just slowly drifting upwards. But there still could be pesky lows and upper troughs around that give us showers and storms. Again, you could see little lows drifting to our south there next week. Could cause some issues. But generally into the longer term, it doesn't look too bad until beyond day 10. We finally see proper low pressure systems breaking through off the Atlantic. And it does actually look pretty unsettled there. The only other thing we can see with this is right to the extended range, because of the strength of that low and a bit of a Euro high building, it could actually draw some very warm air from the south here for the final days of May. This could get, again, those temperatures back into the mid-20s, maybe even upper 20s if we let it build for a few days. So that is very warm indeed in that extended range. But it would all be dependent on that weather front out to our west, because you can see it would be containing a lot of precipitation to the south and the east of that, where it could be fairly pleasant. So GFS stays fairly warm, does go a little bit more unsettled in that longer term period. Compared to the GEM, again, poor synoptics at the moment with low pressure around. Eventually high pressure does nudge back in, but we do still see bits of upper trough around. And eventually at day 10, we are generally under higher pressure. There is a bit of shower activity here, as we do see low pressure still nearby, or a bit of an upper trough nearby. Most of this is shower or thunderstorm activity. The GM is pretty slightly overdoing it at day 10. But apart from that, it probably wouldn't actually be all too bad. We're looking at 2 meter temperatures again. We're looking at high teens, maybe low 20s. But again, that will be all dependent on the sunshine amount. So GM, not horrible, but not amazing either. If you compare to the ECMWF, again, low pressure around at the moment, high pressure eventually drifting back in, and right towards day 10, we do see low pressure trying to break through, but it never fully breaks through, and instead we do generally keep higher pressure over the top of us, or at least nearby. The only thing is got a bit of cold air developed under this higher pressure. Again, not ridiculous, but it would definitely turn a chill instead of being warm. So have to keep an eye on that, of course. And you can see some of these colder runs from the latest GFS ensembles. If you just refresh this briefly, you can see generally looking average to slightly above average, and that's why temperatures are around the 20-degree mark with some thunderstorms over the next 5 days or so. You can see into next week, we do see a bit more deviation. Most runs still around average, but we're seeing a few runs going cold or even very cold, close towards sort of 8 degrees below average. Now, the reason for that is because we'll see a bit of a northerly blast on the back edge of a low as that pushes in from the north, but the majority not showing that. The majority, though, keep us around average, and longer term there are even some warm or very warm runs appearing, and a little bit of a drying trend as well, which is a positive. As you see, the sea level pressure slowly drifting upwards, and if we look at the 2 meter temperatures, looking widely around the high teens, maybe towards 20 degrees. If we now have a look at the ECMWF, just to finish off the video, again, generally look at that pretty horizontal line from the temperatures here over the next week to 10 days, generally average to above average by a good couple of degrees, for eventually we drift towards average again. Some cold runs, some warmer runs, basically no real bias there in that final 5 or 6 days of the period. Definitely, though, plenty of showers around. You can see pretty much persistent spikes here over the next week or so, mostly down to showers. We'll have to keep a very close eye on what happens with that. It doesn't look like there's too high of a risk tomorrow, but maybe through Thursday and Friday that risk could increase. So I'll keep you updated. Definitely, from the looks of it, could be a yellow thunderstorm warning issued, perhaps in places, but I think we'll have to wait and see for more runs. But at the moment, yeah, just keep a very close eye on it. Other than that, it's looking pretty decent in that shorter term. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.